Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of FranCoach's Franchising 101 webinar series. I am your host, Tim Parmeter, and we are very excited today for our spotlight as it shines on a unique franchise model. Absentee ownership model has a low investment and low overhead. It is also recession resistant, technology resistant, and allows owners to make a green difference in their community. So before we get started and talk about our guest, I want to take a moment just to let everybody know who we are. FranCoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals who are interested in owning a franchise. We are partnered with over 500 of the top franchisors in the country, spanning nearly 60 industries. We have two basic goals. Number one is to educate clients enough to determine if franchise ownership is the right path. If it is, goal number two is to help each client find the absolute best franchise for them to own. And believe it or not, that's actually the easy part. Best of all, for us, there's never, ever any fee for our service. So that is a little bit about FranCoach. So let's get to the good stuff. Nobody came here to talk about FranCoach. We came to learn about our guest. And today it is the director of franchise recruitment for a franchise called Clothesbin. And it is our good friend, Mr. Eric Edwards. Eric, buddy, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Eric, yay, you're there.
I am here.
Once again, I'll go back to this statement. Two old dudes originally from Indiana and technology, not a good move.
I have no idea what happened. It just popped on. Love to say I did something.
Yeah, well, hey, no worries. You're here now. I was about to start presenting Clothesbin, which would have been a disaster. So thanks for joining us, man. How you been?
Doing good. Doing really good. I'm out here in South Carolina. I'm not sure where everybody's calling in from, but hope you guys are all doing well and being safe.
Absolutely safe and sane, the two keywords these days. So
yeah, the ladder's getting tougher.
Exactly. Well, good deal, man. We're excited to learn a little bit about Clothesbin, and I've got a bunch of stuff I'm gonna kind of fire your way question wise, and we'll kind of roll through some slides here periodically, as long as I remember to click the next button. But just, I guess, maybe in general, fill us in just a little bit on what the heck is Clothesbin.
So really, we are the only textile recycling franchise out there. Prior to coming to Clothesbin, I never really thought of clothing as a commodity before, but it is a very in-demand commodity. We are a kind of a B2B type business. We're collecting from just individuals, and then our sales are to very large industry businesses. It is a semi-absentee business. It's one that it could be, a full-time gig if you wanted it to be, but for most people, this turns out to be more of a bit of a side hustle. And everybody talks about being recession resistant, and if there's anything that COVID will prove, is it's going to prove out who actually is and who isn't. So for us, this has actually been a kind of a booming time. We've got people that are doing their spring cleaning out of their closets kind of year round right now. So we have we've really expanded our business quite a bit during this particular time.
Well, no, Ed, you're right on about the COVID kind of saying who's really resistant, recession resistant or not, and for sure. And this is one. Let's tell people we're partnered with over 500 franchises, but geez, there's over 3,000 altogether. And what we say, we're partnered with over 500. We work closely with a much smaller amount, and I just kind of want to. The next slide kind of gives an idea of what in the franchise industry, even though this is something people may not have ever heard of or thought of, this is a very well respected and rapidly growing brand. But I'm gonna take a little sidebar, and then I'm gonna let you jump back into this, because this was a franchise, quite frankly, that we were partnered with, but didn't work all that closely with until Eric came on board. And for me starting out in this industry, geez, almost 6 years ago, Eric was a huge, essentially kind of almost a mentor for me. And for him, all of a sudden coming over to Clothesbin to take on the responsibility of growing this brand, that was like Tom Brady going from the Patriots to the Buccaneers. Like, who
Yeah,
outside
we
of
all
Tampa
see how
Bay?
well that worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but who outside of Tampa Bay paid attention to the Bucks, and probably half the people in Tampa Bay didn't do that beforehand. But all of a sudden, here's a rock star Hall of Famer going over to a new franchise, which is kind of Eric coming here. So I kind of wanted to point that out because it really helped get my attention for what this opportunity is, and I kind of do this for a living. But here's a great slide to kind of talk about where you guys are. But you mentioned the industry. I'm sure I'm not the only one that did not realize how big this industry is. Touch on those things for us a little bit.
So anytime that we're looking at this, a lot of people are talking about what is the actual demand for the clothing. I think one of the biggest questions I get early on is how tough is it to sell? And what you have to realize is we are not selling clothes by individual pieces. We're selling them by the pound. So to give you an idea, typically we will sell 40,000 pounds of clothes is one shipment for us. And, that seems like a lot. And I think a lot of people are kind of shocked that anybody's buying that. And I tell them, a really good thrift store will go through as many as 10,000 pounds of clothes, upwards of 15,000 pounds of clothes in a week. And basically they're selling these clothes in different fashions. There's 5 tiers of rating, anywhere from a 5, which is like a brand new article, maybe even with the tags on it, to a 1, which is something that's going to be sold more as like rags or something along those lines. And so there are groups for all of those all throughout not only the country, but the world. And so basically what we do is we have all these different buyers all across the country, depending on where you're located. And as our franchisees are collecting these clothes, we're lining up shipments, and then they're selling them by the pound. And typically what we'll do is we'll line up a shipment when they've put together about 40,000 pounds worth of clothes to be sold. I guess that actually to walk you through the clothesbin, basically, and that's a good slide. We can stop right on that one for a little while. You can see the bins there, and you would think with something so simple that technology wouldn't be influencing that, but technology is a lot of the reason that we're able to do what we do today. So anybody who becomes a franchisee is going to be dropping 40 of these bins in different places, whether it's schools or malls or gas stations or where have you, throughout their community. And then inside the bins, we actually have what we call blip technology. And that technology allows us to see just how full that bin is becoming. So as soon as that bin starts to get 75, 80% full, when you go online, it's going to pull up all of your bins, and the ones that are starting to get most full are going to be near the top. And basically what our technology is then going to do is it's going to create the most efficient route for the bins that need to be serviced. Now what this allows us to do is not only to be able to service the bins, but it keeps us from having to go and check on our bins to see where they're at and everything. This technology lets us know where these bins are at all times. And then the other thing the technology is doing is it's tracking exactly how efficient a bin is. One of the biggest reasons that I love this business plan more than almost anything I've ever worked with in the past is my background. I've come from a lot of food and a lot of retail. And the toughest thing on that is always the real estate. No matter how much homework we do on the front end, you can never be 100% certain. There are locations out there that you would swear up and down are going to make it. And when you go into them, they just don't perform. And there's really nothing you can do. You know, you've already invested all that money into fitting out that location, and you end up just spending a ton of money marketing, trying to drive business to that location. A lot of times that's a very uphill battle. With closed bin, we do zero marketing. We do none. If we place 40 bins and 35 of them are performing well and 5 of them are not, we simply move those bins. And that is it. You know, the reason we have, I think, that rating so high in franchise, and being able to move our bins is what really gives us a lot of ability to hit our numbers. And one of the things that any veteran who looks at our FDD will see right away is we've never ever had a closed bin close or transfer, for that matter. So all of our existing franchisees right now are original franchisees, and most of them have expanded. So I always feel like that, you know, talks more to this franchise than just about anything else. You guys still got me, Tim? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so this actually kind of breaks down the simplicity of this, where it really is going from the bin. The bins are picked up with the truck, and then they're taken either to basically a storage facility. And we actually use a tractor trailer trailer bin for our storage rather than an indoor bin. It gives us an idea of exactly when we have a full trailer, or we sell directly to some thrift stores in those particular markets. Wholesale naturally doesn't pay quite as much per pound as your local thrift store. So typically there's a bit of a mix between the two as far as that's all they're selling to. And then some of the people, they love the wholesale aspect of this. They collect a lot of pounds, and they like the simplicity of selling 40,000 pounds at a shop.
Awesome. Cool. What you talked a little bit about the notification and the technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that, being able to manage that remotely, right? I mean, I love that picture that we showed at the beginning, right? Dude's just sitting on the beach managing his business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about how you get those bins placed initially and what all that looks like.
Yeah, that's a great question. So early on, we typically, when you're doing your 40 bins, you're going to do it in 2 shipments because 20 bins fits very well on a truck. Now, part of the training, we're going to send our team out there for 1 week in your market, and 90% of what they're going to be working with you on is signing agreements on where to put the bins. And typically in that week, we will sign just as many agreements as we can possibly sign. A lot of times we'll end up signing 20. If that is something that you personally just don't enjoy or something like that, we will, for $150 per location, continue to find any locations. We'll just keep our the team there. But most of the guys really get to the point where this is a very simple agreement. This is typically about a 5-minute conversation with somebody. You know, it's a one-pager that either person can walk away from very quickly, and that's more for us, believe it or not, than for them. And then you know, we'll go out, figure out where the bin is going to be, take a picture and superimpose that bin there, so when the driver comes, they know exactly where to place the bin. Everybody's already agreed on it, and they know exactly how to position it. And really past that point and then collecting the close, really the main job of the franchisee is tracking the efficiency of each one of those bins. And you're always kind of trying to improve your bottom ones a little bit. And if you get to the point where you've got 40 that are really producing well, there's no reason that you can't add a few more.
Eric, what would be a reason? Because like you're putting these in gas stations, high traffic destination type of place. Why would a business say no?
We really don't get too many that do say no. Schools are one of our best ones. Right now, our schools are tonning it. And one of the reasons why is there's really nothing that they can do at this point. Typically with schools, we'll sign a percentage agreement. So they're kind of, they tend to be some of your highest producers, and they tend to make some of the most money from us, and they should. Right now, there's really not much they can do. They can't have their typical car washes or their bake sales or things of that nature. But what they can do is encourage students and parents and everybody else to contribute to our bins. And a lot of the bins since COVID has hit, we've had to double up at our schools just because that is a source of revenue for them. Most businesses, though, they've got this square footage, and especially anytime you're dealing with something like a C-store, I love those guys' mindset because they're looking at every foot on that C-store and trying to figure out how much money can I get per foot. And so those guys immediately get it. Malls are kind of in the exact same way. There's a lot of real estate out there right now, a lot of people that are losing tenants. And any little incremental sales that they can pick up, even if it's $75 or $100 a month, they're jumping on it. So yeah, we really right now are very much so cherry picking whatever locations we want.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's why I couldn't think of like why in the world would they say no? They're not out anything.
Extremely rare for us to ever get turned down. And if we do, it's no big deal because again, if we're looking at a market where we can drop 40 bins, there may be 250 very good locations that would work there. So for us to get 40 is really nothing.
Right. So one convenience store says no, you go across the street to their competitor and plop it right there. Right.
You got it. Exactly right.
And that's a great thing about the schools, right? Because you don't. I guess one of those things you don't think about is all those kind of small things schools would need to do for fundraising. They're not right. You're not doing a lot of those things anytime soon. And if the school's making money off of it, they can kind of market that to their students and parents and all of that as well. So,
schools also help us in some of those markets where they won't allow something like this. Some of our best markets are markets where there might be a small city there that has some type of ordinance that isn't even allowing this. And typically we might still have 8 or 10 or 12 bins still set up in that particular area, just in schools that are tonning it. So yeah, they and there are no ordinances with any types of schools. So yeah, they're a big part in what we do. And typically we have a lot of schools that are contacting us. We a lot of times before we even put a franchisee into a particular market, already have people that want us there that we just go there and immediately sign the contracts who have already contacted us.
Awesome. Well, good. And then I think you talked a little bit about this already, right? But the role of that owner is, again, pretty minimal, right? And you talk about maybe having a couple part-time employees, and they're basically just going out to check on the bins. What's that look like?
It is, and typically, we always say it ends up being just a couple people doing part-time. Naturally one person could easily do this because it's not a full-time gig. But yeah, that is about it. Most of our current franchisees do not drive the routes. We only have about 10% of them. I did see one question come up here really quick, and something it's a good thing to address. People always ask, what do you do about if, and this will happen. You'll get a site where somebody will come and leave some trash outside, or something along those lines. I wouldn't say it's rare, but it's not real common. And that is something that we kind of deal with. As far as, when we come there with the truck, we've always got our own bags. We bag all the clothes. So even if somebody puts loose clothing in there, we will bag that clothing and then toss it in our truck. And if we have something like that, if we put something in an area where there's all of a sudden, there's like a mattress out there or something like that, and it becomes a bit of an issue, typically we'll move from a site like that. Generally, that tends to be at what I would consider kind of a less desirable site. Generally, at your better sites, that doesn't happen. I saw they asked, specifically on the schools with kids throwing trash in there and stuff. Not really been an issue. Typically with the schools, we don't get that. If we get that, it's more going to be at, I would say, like maybe a lower like C-store area. You're really not going to see that very often, like your schools or your malls or any of those areas. But that is something that does come up, and it's just kind of part of it. It's not a daily part by any stretch of the imagination, but if we have a location where that started to become an issue, we would just, again, we would move from that spot.
Good question. And at a school, I'm guessing there's going to be a video camera out there, and somebody's going to end up with detention. When you get to your
when you get to your higher, and you're also not going to have that like at a Quick Trip. You're not going to have that come up, and your schools from there's definitely that would be if you placed one in probably a little bit lower socioeconomic area, you would have that happen a little bit more often.
Gotcha. Well, cool. So we've got this incredibly simple model. It's not going away. We've got the technology. We may be lacking the technology on this webinar, but the franchise itself.
Blip works so well.
Other than the blip in the webinar, but everything else is you've got that. It's semi-absentee, so you can either be in that position where you keep your corporate job and you've got this, or it's one of your many businesses, right, that you're running. But all those things sound fantastic. But let's talk about some money here, brother. What's this look like for us?
So one of the questions that just came up was, do all the locations work by profit sharing? No, most do not. Most we are paying a lease to them, and that lease could be anywhere from say $50 up to $250, depending on how strong a location that is. Part-time employees do not pick up the bins; they only unload them. So once these bins are in there, that's it, and nobody does any sorting. I see that coming up too. So this clothing is sold by the pound. Now, that is one of the reasons that we're able to basically get as good a money as we get for the clothes that we sell per pound, is the fact that they know these items have not been cherry picked. They have not been gone through. This is just raw. So in that raw, you're going to get so much of, high-end clothes and lower-end clothes and everything else. Naturally, if they've been cherry picked, it's going to be worth less. So to get into the prices a little bit here, and basically the gross revenue and everything else. Basically, the big thing that everybody's looking at is the average income per bin. And you can see right now the average income per bin is about just a hair under $1,200. Now, one of the things that I will say about our item 19 is we do include our labor in that. So naturally, if somebody were doing this themselves, their price per bin would be a little bit better. But since 90% of our franchisees are absentee owners, I think it would be a little bit disingenuous to give the other revenue. So again, if you know $1,200 is about your beacon, if you've got a bin out there that's only producing $600 or $700, again, that is a bin that we're going to look to move and put that in a place where it's going to start to at least hit our average.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, no, and your comment about the average income is great, because again, you're trying to almost lower those expectations, knowing that, hey, that can actually come back significantly higher, and then especially when you're looking at that from the pretty low level of work that an owner has to do for these things, right? So that's good, and that's all coming from a incredibly low investment for this, as you can kind of see here, if you want to kind of add to any of this, but I always want to kind of give people an idea of what
so
that
looks like. One of the
looks
things
like.
I would say in this that I also like is the fact that $12,000 on additional funds, working capital, is probably what a lot of people would refer to that as. For something this size, that's pretty healthy. But yeah, our all-in expense on this, you know, I know everybody's doing the math right now. They're saying, well, 40 bins at 11 something, you know, they're coming out at somewhere between that 45 and 48. So you're looking at your return on investment. Again, the thing I like about this is I really can't emphasize enough being able to position these bins to where they should be hitting those numbers. There's really absolutely no reason not to be hitting your numbers, because you can move. There's really nothing I've ever worked with in the past where I've had that ability. Again, you get into a position where basically you start spending a lot of money to market, to try and drive people to your location. We do zero marketing. We're not spending a dime on marketing. If a site is not producing, just change sites. And that really is the beauty of this.
Which, as you said, is more or less unheard of, right? You're in your Dairy Queen days way back in the day, right? If you plop open one of those things, and if it's not doing really well, you can't just all of a sudden, hey, let's move this across town, right?
No, you are, you know,
you're locked.
It comes to that, you know, and then you start to wonder, am I chasing good money after bad, putting, you know, 5, 7, 9% towards marketing. Somebody asked me to kind of go through the math and the process again here as far as what we're doing. Basically, what is we are collecting clothes from our bins as they fill up. So let's kind of go through a day in the life of. So if you get up and you've got 40 bins and you see 5 of them are at 75 to 100% full, and so that's the route for the day. So basically, we're going to have an area, if you see down here where it says space and truck rentals. So we're going to have an area where we're going to have a trailer for a truck sitting there, and probably a small box truck that we've either leased or probably bought one maybe for 7 or 8 grand. It is going to create a route to go and hit those 5 bins. So we're going to go there. We're going to take all the clothes out. We're going to count the bags, and that's going to kind of tell us, you know, how that bin is producing. We're going to enter that information, and then we're going to reset our blip there, and then we're off to the next route. And then as we collect these clothes, eventually that trailer is going to fill up. It's going to get to about 40,000 pounds. Well, a week prior to that trailer, when we see where we're going to be, you're going to contact corporate and say, okay, I'm going to have a load. They're going to work something out with like Uber Freight or whoever. And then let's say a week or 10 days later, they're going to come and we're going to unload that trailer into their trailer. And, you know, they're going to take that clothing, that 40,000 pounds, to someplace like El Paso, Texas, or or where they'll buy as much as we can possibly get. And you're going to basically at that point get COD. You're going to get cash on delivery of that clothing. So that is, in a nutshell, how we're dealing with this. This is not something where you have daily transactions. You're dealing with this with large amounts and large checks at one shot. Now, some of our existing franchisees will sell to an existing thrift store, and they might be going there once or twice a week and dropping off 5, 6, 7,000 pounds worth of clothes and just getting a check right there. That probably is 25 or 30% of what we sell. But a lot of our franchisees stick with the simplicity of wholesale. I hope that answered that. If you guys have any more questions specifically on kind of how this works, please ask.
And Eric, we appreciate all the info. Is there anything else maybe that
wholesale
we
is
haven't
consistent.
talked about?
Yeah, so we just got the question: is wholesale consistent? Extremely consistent. You would be shocked at where these clothes are going. They're going all over the world. There is a huge, in the United States, we purchase a lot of clothes, but in a lot of bordering countries and other places, most clothes are bought secondhand. Even when you see people coming across the border and everything else, you'll see, Nike, Adidas, all this thing, those clothes were probably here at one point and sold in truckloads over there by the pound. So yeah, the secondhand clothes market is a gigantic market. It's a market that we could never, ever hope to possibly fill. I've told somebody before, if you have a really strong thrift store in your area, you couldn't possibly gather enough clothes to keep up with that thrift store. And I think that surprises some people.
Indeed. Eric, anything else we're missing that you would want folks to know about Clothesbin and this opportunity?
I think it's one of those opportunities that I think is very, very straightforward. Kind of what you see is what you get. I would say with a lot of franchises I've worked with in the past, people come in and, you can speak to this too, Tim. When somebody's looking at Dairy Queen or something like that, you have kind of a perception, but reality tends to be a very different thing when you get into it. This is one that most of the people coming in, they completely get it on day one. There are not a lot of moving parts to this. And you can kind of figure out about what the day is going to be like and kind of go from there.
If anything, it's almost too simple.
Yeah, it is an extremely simple model. I mean, even the bins themselves, the fact that, there's no electric to them, no water, nothing. I mean, this is just a steel bin. This is truly just a business model that we work through and realize the guys who started this. I think at some point, if we do branch out, I think we will branch out to a clothesbin thrift store. I don't know if that'll be an entirely different type of franchisee, but I'm sure that our clothesbin franchisees will definitely be selling to our clothesbin thrift store groups. I think that will probably be the evolution of the chain itself and the company.
Gotcha. Well, this has been awesome, man. Eric, it's always, I appreciate you taking some time to chat with us and talk to us a little bit about Clothesbin. So greatly appreciate that. And just seriously, man, always good talking to you. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, if anybody wants any information, just reach out to Tim and we'll get you set up and kind of take you through. Somebody asked about the territories. You do get a protected territory. I guess I should have talked a little bit about that, but yes, so you do not have to worry about competing against another clothesbin person for bins in your particular market. And we do give a much bigger hunting zone than where 40 bins could go in. So your market that we put you in might hold 60, 80, 100, 120 bins. Now it's probably going to hold at least bare minimum 80. So expanding inside your market is something that you can definitely do and don't have to worry about existing competition. And you can expand just by buying extra bins.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, good deal. Hey, this has been fantastic, man. And I appreciate Eric, you joining us and everybody else joining us today to learn a little bit about closed bin, and hopefully this will help enlighten those interested in franchise ownership to some of the amazing possibilities that are out there, many of which, like this, we've never thought of. So if anybody would like to learn more about becoming a franchise owner for closed bin or any of the 500 plus franchises we are partnered with, then let's schedule a brief call to chat. Here's all the fun ways to find us: call, text, email, social media, we're every place. Love to chat. Again, never any fee for our service. So we encourage folks to take that first step today to help create your better tomorrow. Eric, everybody on the webinar, thank you guys so much. Stay safe, and we look forward to connecting very soon. Have a great day.